At it again, and we've got one here with Tucker Carlson, and in this one he's going to be touching on something that I have previously touched on, and actually probably a few videos. So yeah, that's what we're going to be checking out today. Make sure you guys hit that like button, and if you are not subscribed to the channel already, what are you waiting on? Join the family. Join the family. Hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that bell button next to it so you are notified when all of these videos drop. And also, make sure you guys are following me on social media. All of those links are down below in the description box. Instagram, Twitter, Truth Social, Discord server. All of that is down below. And with that being said, let's dive in.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. In July of 1993, a radio station in Kigali, Rwanda, began openly attacking one of the country's main ethnic groups, the Tutsis. The radio station was called RTLM, but many remember it as simply Hutu Radio because its audience was primarily Hutu. According to Hutu Radio, Tutsi people were responsible for virtually every bad thing that ever happened in Rwanda. Tutsis had way too much money. They had way too much power. Tutsis were way too privileged. They were greedy. They were bigoted. They were racists. They were dangerous. Everything about Tutsiness was repulsive. For the most part, actual Tutsis in Rwanda ignored all of this. Hutu Radio was not aimed at them. But then, in July of 1994, just 9 months after RTLM went on the air, a genocide began in Rwanda. More than 500,000 Tutsis were murdered, in many cases by Hutus whose rage had been stoked to violence by RTLM's broadcasts. Entire Tutsi families were dragged from their homes and hacked to death with machetes. Hundreds of thousands of women were raped. The world watched in horror as it happened, but did nothing to intervene. Instead, our leaders told us at the time, the genocide in Rwanda would live forever as a lesson to the rest of us about the capacity for evil that lurks inside every human heart and the dangers of reducing our neighbors to the sum total of their ethnicity. They're individuals, not ethnic groups. Bill Clinton gave an eloquent speech, actually, on the subject.
That is just wild. Wow. Going up to people's homes and yanking their entire families out and doing the unthinkable. Hey. Man, that's wild.
In Kigali back in 1998. Look it up. And ask yourself, as you read it, if any Democratic Party official could today say those same words. It's hard to imagine, given what plays on a loop on that party's cable news arm, MSNBC. Have you watched MSNBC lately? Likely
No.
you haven't. Like the Tutsis, you're not the target audience, but you should tune in sometime. It's remarkable. Given that opposing racism is America's national religion, it may surprise you to learn that open race hate forms much of the substance of that channel's programming. And when we say race hate, we're not referring to the subtle coded variety. You want border security? You giving your kids piano lessons? You like Shakespeare? You believe in the SAT? You must be a racist. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the kind of race hate you cannot mistake for anything else, the kind where people just come out and announce, I hate this race of people, and here's why I do. It's hard to believe that anything like that is happening right now on American television, but it is, out in the open. And the most amazing and the most creepy part of all is that no one is saying anything about it. It's all but ignored. And honestly, we had no...
Actually, I have. I've definitely said something about it in several videos. So I've got evidence for sure.
No idea what was going on either until we started getting texts from people. Are you watching this? Can you believe this? So we tuned in. Apparently on the left, what you're about to see is considered completely normal, even good. And that should worry you deeply. You don't want to live in Rwanda. But on MSNBC, they're already there.
And I don't think, I have a feeling I know what he's about to show because I have seen some crazy stuff, but I don't think we would ever get to that kind of situation because we have something here that I don't know this for a fact, but I would assume most Rwandans didn't have. The great equalizer. All right. So you start kicking in people's front doors and there's going to be some things that are going to be flying back through it. And it ain't going to be the people inside the homes themselves. It's going to be some projectiles that are going to be flung out of that, now open hole you just created in someone's home. So good luck coming in, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to be careful with my words here so YouTube don't come after me. But, yeah, that's why I say, man, hey, make sure you have a great equalizer. All right? Second Amendment, baby, shall not be infringed. Amen.
Now, you probably knew about Joy Reid, the race lady, who's been fixated on race hate for years now. But MSNBC has a new host, someone called Tiffany Cross, who hosts a show called The Cross Connection. Here's a selection.
Many of us have seen the dangers when powerful white people decide they want something, they annex it. And they've never had a problem replacing the people who stand in their way.
We see American white people are going crazy. They're resorting to violence.
This is literally what conservative white folks do.
I don't know who this guy is, but I have seen him several times. And this guy says some of the wildest stuff. The wildest stuff.
When they don't get their way, they turn violent.
White people deputizing themselves in some position of authority to have jurisdiction over their life when they need to mind their blanking business.
I don't think it's our responsibility to be tasked with destroying and dismantling the racial oppression that's against us. That's just saying we're more at fault than the white people who constructed this system and the white people who continue to practice institutional racism.
A majority of white people do not support policies that would unpack and unroll and reform this system of justice. This is what they want. Matt Gaetz is giving the white folks what they want.
White replacement can strangle culture. So yes, we should all be concerned about white replacement. It is, after all, a very threat to our survival here.
Is there any?
I'll just say one thing. Well, no, I won't say one thing. I'm not gonna even lie. Okay. My question to Tiffany Cross and all of these other folks who are on MSNBC, I would love to ask them, do you know who cuts your check? Who pays you? If all of these white people are so terrible, do you know who pays you? Can you guess? It's a white person that owns that company. Well, I think like MSNBC is owned by like MSNBC Network, and MSNBC Network is owned by Comcast. I think that's the way that it is, because I looked it up once. It's like weird. I think Fox is the same way. Like Fox is owned by Fox Network or something, and Fox Network was owned by someone, but now they're owned by Disney, I think, which is just crazy. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So if white people are so terrible, why are you collecting a check from one? I'm just asking. And if in another question to ask ourselves is, what's the agenda? If white people own all of these companies, and I spoke about this with the Kanye situation, right? The bank that told him that he needed to find a new institution to bank with, Adidas, who's owned by a white person, is reviewing the deal with Kanye because he said white lives matter. What's the agenda? Clearly there is something there, because all of these white people are telling a black person, or just allowing black people to say that white people are trash. Why would they allow such a thing? Why would they just, oh yeah, here's a check for saying people that look like me don't matter. But these folks don't like sit down and really think, why are white people allowing me to even say this? Like there's they're literally paying me to say this. Why is that? But of course, these folks don't stop and think even for a second. Clearly there's an agenda. Doesn't make any sense. Do you guys agree? Let me know in the comment section, please.
Anything worse than white people? They're violent. They're heartless. They're cruel. They're deranged. They're secretive. They're dishonest. In fact, as you just heard Tiffany Cross say, white people are a mortal danger to you and your loved ones. They threaten your life.
Oh, by the way, Yeah, that is what she said. So, are you denouncing Antifa? Because last time I checked, I've never seen a black person with Antifa. They've always been white people. But they're always trying to march in lockstep with BLM. So, Tiffany Cross and Joy Reid, would you guys denounce Antifa? Because white people are terrible. Why would you want them anywhere near black protest, right? Or are we just being selective here? I'm just asking.
Are they poisoning the wells? Are they baking bread with the blood of your children? If not, according to Tiffany Cross and MSNBC, they're fully capable of doing those things. They've certainly done worse. This is Hutu Radio. But it's not an independent radio station in an African country. It's part of one of the biggest news organizations in the world, part of the biggest telecommunications company in the United States, Comcast, which owns it.
That's what I just said.
So you have to ask yourself, what does Comcast board think of this? Comcast board is mostly
How much you want to bet? Oh, hold on. It sounds like he's about to say it.
white people.
What do you know? Does this stuff? And now listen, I will admit, not long ago, I would have been blind to all of this. But now that my eyes have been opened, like I see it all. Clearly, there's an agenda. The person who owns the company is white. The board of directors are white. And they're paying black people to say that white people are trash? That does, like, just anybody with half a brain would just sit back and say, well, that doesn't even make any sense. You know? Even if you didn't have half a brain. Be a sane person and put yourself in other people's shoes. And sit back and think about that. Why would I pay somebody, if I was part of the board of directors, as a black person, right? Why would I be paying white people to say that black people are trash? Why would I ever do such a thing? How would I benefit from that? Come on, man. People don't think, though. Once again, they don't think.
White people who, according to the channel they own, decided they wanted something, then they annexed it. White people who steal because they're white. White people who could, quote, turn to violence when they don't get their way. White people are going crazy, endangering their communities. So you have to ask yourself, why are they putting this on the air? Why are they allowing this? This is not a policy debate. These are open attacks on people, on Americans, on the basis purely of their race. And that's just a selection. We could go on and on and on. Are they aware that this is happening? Perhaps they're not. We weren't, to be fair. But it is happening.
They know.
Day after day after day after day. And at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, if it continues and nobody stops it, do they agree with it? Maybe they do. And just in case you think that we are taking Tiffany Cross out of context, and
the board of directors and the owners of these companies, they don't agree with it, but they don't care. These folks are like buku rich. These little spackles back and forth on the little news channels. Forget about it. Like my money long, so I'm like far away from y'all. Y'all gonna have a real hard time getting to me. And even once y'all do, I got money, so we got armed security. So good luck with that too. Come on, man. People don't think though.
pulling the worst quotes from a out of context segment to make her seem crazy and racist. Here's more. Here's Tiffany Cross at MSNBC.
Oh, expose her again.
Look,
then.
a lot of folks in that Capitol insurrection, some of these folks were white women. And I know we're talking a lot about Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, but I do think that some of the white women who have adopted this ideology, is America ready to face the fact that some of those folks look like people they have elevated and put on a pedestal of being untouchable? What do you say about this wing of white women who have been radicalized and are enablers to this very dangerous domestic terrorism movement that we've seen increase quite rapidly?
She said domestic terror. Oh, my goodness. Oh, the buzzwords that these folks use, man. It's just really.
So it's not just whites, it's white women. Their women are bad too. And women, of course, are the key to reproducing the white race, which is clearly a threat, as she says again and again, to you and your family. They're dangerous. They want to hurt you. Now, don't be fooled by the fact that Tiffany Cross can barely speak a coherent sentence. She was a communications major, apparently, according to the internet. That didn't work. But the gist of it is very, very clear. White women are dangerous because white people are dangerous. They are, by the nature of their DNA, potential domestic terrorists. Now, you could play the game, well, if any other group were spoken about this way, this would be shut down immediately. And of course, that's completely true. There's no other group in America you could talk about the way that Tiffany Cross and Joy Reid and other anchors in MSNBC talk about white people.
Facts.
But you don't even have to play that game. It doesn't matter what the color is. It's always wrong to reduce people to the color of their skin,
Facts.
to their melanin content, to their DNA, and it's even worse to attack them on the basis of that. And in fact, it's the basis of violence, actual violence. Actual violence. But Tiffany Cross can't be criticized because she's oppressed. That's the key. Watch this.
What we didn't see were enough voices willing to point out the deeper, festering rot that's plagued this nation since it was born. People who neither discovered nor built this land have been led to believe that America is theirs and theirs alone. Will this democracy survive? Well, a Yahoo News poll says no. But perhaps when you build a nation on stolen land with stolen labor, it was never going to be a republic we could keep. And so here we are, celebrating.
So basically, nowhere survives because everywhere has been conquered and taken over from someone. Man, do not let me get into a debate with some of these folks, man. I'm gonna make them look foolish. So like, man, oh man, they always talk. Oh well, stolen land. We stole this land. All right, so why are you here? Why don't you go back to where your family or your ancestors are originally from? Since this land is stolen, why are you still standing on stolen land? Why'd you build a house on stolen land? Why are you taking advantage of stolen property? Why are you still here? All right then, you know, like. And when you go back to where your ancestors are originally from, who did they take that land from? So now you got to give it back to whoever they took the land from. So now where are you going to go? All right, then I rest my case.
The birth of a nation, independence for white men.
Okay, once again, calling out a specific race by name. Now, you have to wonder about the other anchors on MSNBC, some of whom are that race. Do they notice this? Do they know what's happening on their channel? Are they okay with this? What do you think happens if we continue?
Of course they are. They can't say anything.
To talk this way? You may not watch that channel, but some people do. What does this look like in a year or 5 years or 10 years? What kind of country do you live in? Well, a country at war with itself. Race war. This woman, Tiffany Cross, whose clips you've been watching, is so deranged by a racialist worldview that she believes all people of one color are oppressed by all people of another color. And to prove it, she says, even NFL players, some of the richest people in our society, some of the most celebrated, the most famous, the most privileged, even they can't escape the all-pervasive hatred of diabolical whites. Watch this.
I gotta say, Mike, the optics just look bad. To see all these black men crashing into each other with a bunch of white owners, white coaches, and the complete disregard of black bodies and black life. I mean, it just represents a larger issue.
Hold on, it looked like they were talking about Tua Tagovailoa, but what they failed to realize is that Tua's not even black. Because I remember seeing this story, and I was going to touch on it, but I was like, never mind, I'll skip it, you know? But Tua's not even black. They were just like, oh, they have disregard for black bodies and because I don't know if you guys watch the NFL or watch any clips of it. I typically don't watch any games, but you know, I'll sometimes check out the highlights and things like that. And there was a game where Tua Tagovailoa obviously had a concussion and was like stumbling on the field doing that whole sort of thing. You know, when you get your brains rattled and you know you're not completely there yet. You know, it looks kind of bad. And so all of these news channels like MSNBC, CNN, and all these other places, oh my God, oh, they don't care about black life. And I'm like, Tua's not even black. Stop it with the nonsense. But of course, you see skin color, you automatically assume. Stop it.
Bad to see all these black men crashing into each other with a bunch of white owners, white coaches, and the complete disregard of black bodies and black life. I mean, it just represents.
They do it willingly. They aren't forced to play football. They get paid millions of dollars to do so. Do I think they should be paid more? Yeah, absolutely. It is a brutal sport. Anybody that's ever played a lick of football a day in their life knows it's a brutal sport. Sometimes it hurts. I mean, let's just keep it a buck. Let's call a spade a spade. But you play it willingly. Willingly is the key. You made a choice to play. And on that level, you get paid millions of dollars to play. So what are we complaining about? Exactly. They just want to create something. Oh my goodness. Oh, goodness gracious.
A larger issue.
So, I mean, look, the average salary for an NFL player is more than $2 million a year. 60% of NFL players are African Americans. In some positions like cornerback, virtually all the first-string players are black. So, okay, we don't have a problem with that. Most people don't have a problem with that. But if you look at that picture and say, this is white supremacy, what are you really saying? You're saying that anybody involved in the sport who is white defiles the sport because whiteness is itself inherently corrupting. White people are so evil that their mere presence in a sport that is overwhelmingly African American and from which African American individuals are benefiting is enough to destroy the whole operation because there are whites involved. What kind of talk is that? Well, it's genocidal talk, actually. Not an overstatement. That's exactly what it is. So again, you have to wonder, what does Comcast board think of this? It's not a rhetorical question, really, now that we're talking about sports, because Comcast also owns an NHL team, a hockey team, the Philadelphia Flyers. And maybe not surprisingly, the NHL just published its first ever diversity report. And according to that report, we have a huge problem with hockey. And the problem is there are too many white people in hockey. Now, why is that a problem? No one actually explains. It doesn't need to be explained because it's just prima facie obvious. We've got a lot of white people. That's inherently bad because white people are inherently bad. Again, do you want to live in a country where powerful people talk this way? What do you think it looks like in 5 years? The head of the NHL's, quote, social impact division said, quote, we have a lot of work to do. Again, how does Comcast board feel about this? Will the board undergo some kind of forced...
I'm sorry, that stuff is foolishness. It's foolish. Like, what are you going to do? Force a bunch of black people to play hockey? Like, what are we talking about? You're going to force a bunch of black people to get hired into these jobs who don't even know what they're doing? Like let's be real. Growing up, I'd never played a lick of hockey a day in my life. Like, of course I'm not going to want to go play hockey. And I feel like that's the case for most black people. Like, they don't grow up playing hockey. Whoever wants to play hockey can play hockey. It's not like there's these gay, oh no, you're black, you cannot play. So leave it alone. Leave it alone. Like, what do we? I'm See, and this is the very reason why racism won't die. It won't die. Because folks like these, diversity, keep cropping up all over the place. People like these hosts on MSNBC just keep harping on it. Just let it die. Leave it. Stop talking about it. We don't need any diversity people in the NHL. We don't need any diversity folks in the NBA or whatever else. You know what I mean? Like, just stop it. Who wants to play can play. Goodness gracious, man. These people disgust me.
Diversification? What about the NBA and the NFL? Admittedly, we're not following all of this, but as Joy Reid and Tiffany Cross tell us, that's probably because we're white and too stupid to understand.
I think for Kamala Harris, she's had like the triple problem of being a woman, and so people not being willing to respect her the way that they would respect a male vice president, of being black, which we already know that what that carries with it is the anti-blackness comes, with the package, and then also being vice president at a time that is really, really difficult.
Joy and I talk about this all the time. Madam Vice President, and you know this, Charlene, she black, okay?
Yes.
She went to Howard, she AK, and when she talks to you, it is, she sounds
She's so
like
regular.
me. She's so regular and
really
approachable,
is.
and it's unfortunate that more people don't see that. And there's also just the dumbing
because it ain't there
down of the American electorate.
We could go on and on. We could read excerpts from Tiffany Cross's book, which are brimming with racial hostility. We could play you a million clips from Joy Reid, which are exactly the same, filled with open racial hostility. But you get the point. And if you don't believe us, just go ahead and tune into MSNBC. But it's not really about that channel or those hosts. It's about a society that thinks that's okay. Where it's not really about diversity, it's about hating other people on the basis of their race. And it's a little bewildering to the rest of us who thought the whole point of America was that we're aspiring to a country where we are judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. And all of a sudden, racial reductionists don't simply have the floor and the platform on cable news shows, but have apparently the unquestioning support of the biggest telecommunications company in the United States. What does that say about the country and its leadership?
So yeah, what more can I say about that? Just absolute foolishness, obviously, and race hustlers. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. They collect a check this way, so I don't see them stopping the BS. The only hope is just exposing them and making them look foolish. Hopefully, getting them in a debate of some type and just exposing their foolishness on a public stage, live and in person. I think that would put in motion the end of it. I don't think that would end it immediately, but the end would be, coming at that point. Obviously, they'd go back to their news shows, and, their writers would come up with some kind of clever response. You know what I mean? I see the script already, The writers would come up with some clever response, and then they respond on their news show or whatever to try to keep it going, but the damage would already be done at that point. So that, honestly, I think that's best case scenario. Getting Joy Reid or Tiffany Cross in a debate live and making them look foolish in front of millions of people, embarrassing them, and that would be the end of their shows. Eventually, that will put it in motion. But what do y'all think? Let me know in the comment section below. Like, share, comment, hit that subscribe button before you go. Peace and love. I'm out.